Hi everyone, hope you guys are doing great today. Just want to check in again with you and want to talk a little about reading today because that's part of the assignment that you have for this week is to do some reading and take some AR quizzes. And a big shout out to Khalil. He's already reached his goal as well. He sent me a picture of his flower filled up, so great job, Khalil. Proud of you for doing that. A few other things that I want to talk with you about really quickly too is Mr. K, our PE teacher, and Mrs. Chancellor, the music teacher. They also have their own Google Classroom and would like it if you would check in with them. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and get connected with them. Mr. K's got some good things you can do at home, and Mrs. Chancellor also has some fun music things that you can be participating in while you're at home. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about reading today, and I brought my whiteboard and I wanted to remind you about the Comprehension House. We've talked about it in school, but it's been a long time. And of course, if we were in class, these would be things that I would be asking you to remember or to be on the lookout for while you're reading. So remember, the first thing that we want to make sure that we are checking for whenever we're reading is the characters. Right? We want to make sure that you can identify the characters in your story, that you can see how they interact with each other, that you can see how the character might change throughout the story. Maybe the character starts out kind of afraid at the beginning of the story and then becomes very confident at the end of the story. You want to see if a new character is introduced as the story goes along, and so that's one important part of the story. Another important part that you need to remember in the story is the setting. Remember, the setting is very important. Where does the story take place? And oftentimes the setting will determine many aspects about what happens in the story. If the story takes place by the beach, different things might be happening in the story than if the story took place in the forest. And also, settings can change throughout the story. Right? The character can start out in one place at the beginning of the story, then by the end of the story, they're in a different place. Okay, another thing, remember that you need to be able to identify in a story is the beginning, middle, and end. Right? So that's the first part of the story. What happens? How is the story introduced? In the middle of the story, that's usually where the problem takes place. And then at the end of the story, that's usually where the solution happens. So we want to make sure that we're identifying the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, and then also one more thing to add is the problem and the solution. Now you're only going to find problem and solution in the story if it's a fiction story, right? Nonfiction doesn't usually have a problem. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the problem in the story and the solution. How does the character in the story solve the problem that they have? Okay, so a few little things here to be thinking about while you're reading. Okay, another thing that I wanted to remind you of while you're reading is author's purpose. Now, we talked about this in class, and remember you're using the word pie to help you remember the author's purpose. Is the author trying to persuade you to do something? Is the story just, did the author try to inform you, like a nonfiction story, to give you some facts? Or is the author trying to entertain you? Right? Like a fiction story, just something fun to read for your enjoyment. Okay, so while you're reading at home, maybe be asking some questions like this. Maybe draw your comprehension house so you can stay focused on what you're reading. Now, when you're taking your AR quizzes, make sure that you're reading each question twice. Make sure that you're reading each of the answers before you choose one. And you might need to go back and read the book 2 times before you start a quiz. Okay? So just wanted to give you a little bit of support while you're doing some reading at home. Just asking the same kinds of questions that we would be going over in class. So, you know, there's all kinds of fun books to read, and I brought a few books here. Some books that I'm reading right now are biography, Kisses for Katie, and then also kind of a self-help book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And these are 2 books that I've enjoyed, that I like to read because, of course, you read your whole life long, right? I brought a few books that I used to read to my children when they were little. And so here's a few of those, of course. Little Sesame Street, Who Am I? It's fun to do a guessing game on that book. Lost in the Woods was another favorite of my kids. And also Goodbye House was another one that they liked with Little Bear. So those are a few books that I read to my kids, and then I have a book that my mom gave to me when I was a little girl. It's called Hello Sunshine. The cover's ripped, but the inside is still good. And of course, this is a very special book to me because my mom used to read it to me, and it was a gift. So it's something that I wanted to keep as a reminder of her. Okay, so I thought today, since we're talking about reading, and it's Thursday, and we would be going to the library, and we would be sitting in the library, and I would sit in a chair and pick a book, and I would read a story to you. And of course, that's one of our favorite things to do. So I thought today I would read you a story. So I picked a story called Harbor Seal Pup Grows Up. It's about a little mammal, and this character goes through some hard times. He has some different settings, and there's a problem and a solution. So I hope you can identify that by the time we get to the end of the story. Okay, so we'll just sit back and relax and enjoy a good story together. So I'm going to put on my reading glasses, right, because I have to wear those to be able to read to you all. So let's go ahead and get started on a story today. Here we go. And I'll try to hold the pictures up close to you. It's kind of hard here while I'm sitting here. Whoops, I feel like I'm always crooked. Okay, really? Okay, here we go. Harbor Seal Pup. Whoops, there we go. Harbor Seal Pup Grows Up. Such a cute little picture of our little harbor seal. All right, here we go. By the ocean, the harbor seal pup is 2 weeks old. Her name is Sydney. Sydney stays close to her mother. She drinks her mother's milk. Waves crash on the rocky beach. Harbor seal families lie in the warm sun. Sydney and her mother lie in the sun too. Sydney's mother gets hungry. She dives in the water to catch fish. The water is too cold for Sydney, so Sydney stays on the shore. Okay, and then here, let me show you the pictures by the ocean. And there they are. Okay, the seal pup waits for her mother. She waits for 3 days. She is very hungry. People notice the seal pup. She is alone. Will her mother come back? The next day, the pup is still alone. The people call for help. Sydney is rescued. Okay, so here's our pictures. Little Sydney right here, missing her mom. She's too little to be by herself. Remember about mammals, they need their moms at the beginning of their life to stay alive, right? Nursed back to health. Sydney is brought to a sea mammal center. A scientist named Peter is in charge. Peter takes care of young seals. He lifts the thin pup from her cage. Sydney is weak from hunger. Peter knows just what to do. He puts a tube in Sydney's mouth. Then Nicole pumps a drink into Sydney's stomach. The drink is like a mother seal's milk. Okay, so here we go. Show you the picture. Sydney is full, and she is also very tired. She falls asleep. When Sydney wakes up, her eyes are bright. She looks around. Peter examines the pup. Her heartbeat is normal. So is her temperature. She is healthy. Sydney has a full set of teeth. That means she is at least 3 weeks old. Sydney is small for her age. Sydney gets her drink 3 times a day. She becomes stronger. Using her flippers, she scoots around. A child's plastic pool becomes Sydney's playpen. She likes the water. She swims faster and faster. Okay, and there she is, getting better at the mammal center. Nicole shows Sydney a fish. Sydney doesn't want it. Nicole does not give up. Day after day, she wiggles the fish in front of Sydney, and then one day, the pup swallows it. Before long, Sydney wants to eat fish. She waits for her bucket of fish in the morning. The pup is gaining weight. She no longer needs her healthy drink. Sydney is 5 weeks old. She has a thick layer of fat. The fat will keep her warm in cold water. Sydney is ready to be on her own. Returning to the ocean. Peter puts the pup in a carrying case. Other scientists take over. They carry Sydney onto a boat. Sydney is excited by the ocean's salty smell. She shakes in the case. The boat heads towards an island. When they are almost there, the boat stops. It is time to say goodbye. The scientist tips the case. "Good luck, little one," she says. And there Sydney goes back to the ocean where she should be. Sydney slips into the water. She will find other seals. She will catch fish. Sydney will grow up in her ocean home. Okay. All right, that ends. So I hope you enjoyed the story. Of course, Sydney is our main character, right? And of course, the ocean is the setting, but the Mammal Center was also the setting. And then, of course, the problem was solved whenever she was rescued and she could go be nursed back to health and then head on back out to the ocean. So I hope you enjoyed that story today. It's not exactly like it is when we're in the library together, but I do enjoy reading with you. So I sent a Google invite for a hangout for Friday at 10 o'clock. So hopefully your parents got that. They would have to receive that on their email, so you might check with them. So have a great day and do some good reading, making sure to remember all of those important things for good comprehension. So have a great day. Bye, you guys.